closed doors, or even behind iron walls, to feel the need to be set free. You want to liberate your mind, controlling secrets, yet you will find the need to be set free. And the Lord says, captives be free, just come to me. I'll break those chains that hold you down.
Welcome to Heroes of Hope. This show has been designed to be able to bring to you different organizations, testimonies, churches, and churches that have actually programs that are there at their locations. We're real excited about today's show. I have somebody with us today that is a friend of mine, and not only a friend of mine, but he's a pastor here in Staten Island at International Christian Church. And so today I want to be able to introduce to you Reverend Eric Webb. Welcome, Eric. Thank you for being with us today. It's a great honor. I greatly appreciate you coming on. We've been able to bring a lot of different organizations and people onto the show to be able to speak about this drug epidemic. And we're working together real hard. And I'm so glad that you're able to make time to be a part of it. But I want to ask you this first question. I know that many people would love to know more about you first. As you know, they've been hearing a whole lot about what we've been doing, and they will hear more. But first, let's hear more about you. Why don't you share with the people about yourself?
Well, I grew up in a small town in Kentucky. It was a coal mining town. The saying was, there was 100 people in the town, and you were related to 90, and the other 10 were dogs. So it was a small town, and you know, we grew up. We didn't really have that much, so we worked basically for everything. But as we progressed throughout the years, we moved to central Kentucky, and he got a good paying job and provided. And then as I graduated high school, school wasn't my forte, so I decided to join the Army, and I spent 5.5 years in the Army in Kansas, California, Georgia, Korea, Iraq, you name it, and I was probably there. But after the Army, we got out, and it was kind of wondering. Me and my wife, I'm married, I have 2 kids. I got a 9-year-old boy, a 4-year-old daughter, and we at the time it was just me and my wife. So I loved Kansas City. I wanted to stay there, but my wife, she hated it. So happy wife, happy life. So we decided to
Smart man.
We decided to begin our transition back to Kentucky, and I actually got a very good job in Kentucky, and was happy. We had everything we desired, everything we wanted, but there was that tugging in your heart that you had to do something more. And when Hurricane Sandy hit, God just, he tugged on my heart hard enough, and he says, "This is it. This is where I'm calling you next." And I said, "God, I think you're mistaken. New York's not for me." And but it was just through words of confirmation and prayer and fasting, we decided to come here. And we worked alongside of you and many other churches here on the island, rebuilding homes and a lot of other things. And it just seemed like God continued to open door after door after door. A lot of people asked me, and they said, "Well, how long are you going to be there?" I said, "I'll be here until God tells me or opens doors for somewhere else." And we began a ministry in one of the housing projects here on the island. We're still doing work up on Jersey Street. Then God opened another door for me to be a campus pastor at International Christian Center in Newdorp. So we're doing that as well. And to be able to partner along with Heroes of Hope and just the many other churches and organizations, it's a home run, man. It's a no-brainer.
That's a pretty awesome thing. I love working along Jersey Street too.
Yeah.
We've had some good times to be able to work along that avenue there. It's It's got a personality all by itself.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
But let me ask you a question. When you think of the drug epidemic here in Staten Island, what are your thoughts concerning what you've been watching evolve concerning this drug epidemic?
It's heartbreaking. It's just it's truly it's painful to see. It's painful to watch, especially being in Jersey Street and being at Newdorp. It's two separate neighborhoods, but yet you see the same thing.
Yeah.
And the one common and the one constant are drugs. On Jersey Street, I could show you numerous people that are addicted, numerous people that are using and selling, and in Newdorp, it's the same thing, and it's just all falls back on drugs. So as a pastor, it breaks your heart because this is the land that God's given us, and man, we're to go forward. But as a human being, to know that was my background, it was drugs, and God delivered me from that. So it's even more painful to see people go through that and know what they're feeling.
So you had an adventure or a journey on your own in the sense of addiction or or the party life,
Oh,
or,
yes.
Oh, yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well,
Okay.
I grew up in church. My mom sang at a Southern gospel group, and when I hit 18, I basically looked at my parents and I said, I'm done. I said, I don't want no more of this. I want to try the world to my own. And I did. I tried it, alcohol, drugs, partying, and at my lowest point, I was standing in the middle of 4th Street, high, cracked out of my mind, cursing God, at my lowest point. And then to have experienced all that and had to have come off of that and dealt with that for so many years, I didn't truly get clean from alcohol till 6-7 years ago, and it was just to see the process. Looking back on it now, man, the pain and hurt I caused on others was unnecessary, but also to look back on it now, I see the testimony that God's given me, because if God can do it in me, and I know where I was at, man, I know He can do it in everybody else. It's just a matter of going and sharing that testimony and sharing with people God's love.
A lot of people talk about what, myself or yourself, what we came out of,
Yeah.
and a lot of times people don't realize that the same God that did that for us back when, and others even further back in time, that He's the same God that could do that today.
Amen. That's right.
And a lot of times it's important that we testify.
That's right.
And we share with people, and they don't need another religious sermon per se. They need the evidence. They need the miracle testimony of what they see.
I always tell people, because I get asked, well, how do you know? And I say, look, God allowed me to go through what I went through just for this moment. I had to go through everything that I went through so I could walk through it with you and help you through it.
So it's a trophy of grace.
Amen.
So you're like God holding up a trophy of His grace. I will tell you, there's another question that I want to ask you in reference to, you see all the churches, you see all the organizations, you see all the public officials coming together, doing all these big events and things like that. How does it make you feel knowing that we see individually the devastation,
Right.
but we also see the collaboration that's coming together? How does that make you feel?
Well, you look at the epidemic here on the island, and it's gotten to a point to where it's so bad that I think everyone's at the end of the rope. So those that wouldn't work with others are beginning to tear down their pride and say, hey, we can't do this alone.
Yeah.
So there's a sense of pride in seeing that God, even in that, is moving organizations, and He's putting puzzle pieces together to see organizations come together with churches come together with government programs, and to all combine collectively to tackle this issue. And where one is weak, another is strong.
Absolutely.
And where one is strong, another is weak. And we all have strengths and weaknesses, and when we all can learn and glean off one another different things.
So in a sense, the issue itself, the epidemic itself, it kind of brings us to a place where it strips us of our ego, it strips us of our own desires or our own wants. You know, we had certain things we were planning or whatever, and we can't effectively make the difference that we want to make unless we actually do
That's
it
right.
together. And those are the things
That's
that get in
right.
the way, right? Pride,
That's right. Yeah,
ego,
pride.
you know.
You know, even just, you know, I know within the church community, you know, sometimes, well, I can't work with that church, or I don't know, I can't do this, and I can't. But we've seen those walls break down.
Yeah.
We've seen those barriers just be wiped away, and to be able to come alongside Catholic churches and come alongside Baptist and Pentecostal and Methodist, we all have one goal,
Yeah.
and that's to see this eradicated from this island.
Yeah.
Because the crazy thing about the drug epidemic is that it touches everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a pastor. It doesn't matter if you're a government official. It doesn't matter if you're just some guy on the street.
That's right.
It affects everyone,
Yep.
whether directly or indirectly. We all have either dealt with people in our families that have suffered with addiction, or we know of people, or we've counseled people. So there's a correlation amongst all the groups because it's touched us to the core, and that's why I think as we unite together, we'll become stronger together, and we'll begin to see.
You know what blows my mind? Somebody was on the show, and I won't mention who they are, but they said something to me that really touched my heart, because the same way you're emphasizing how different churches have broken down walls so we can cross over and work together on this specific thing, they had turned around. They're a part of an organization. It's not a Christian or religious in any way. It's just an organization. And they turned around and said, you know, it's refreshing to be able to work with the churches on a common interest, and all of us be able to work together and embrace the community.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying, the walls being knocked down among different churches, it's actually a blessing,
Oh, yes.
even for the world.
Absolutely.
Even for organizations,
Absolutely.
even for, you know, everybody out there is looking at it like it's a win-win.
Absolutely.
So it's refreshing in every way to be able to make the impact. Let me ask you this, in reference to ICC, I heard that you guys have started a 12-step group.
Yes.
Now, could you share a little more about it? I know in the second half of the show, we're gonna have the facilitator, Norberto, and he's gonna share. But quickly, just share with us, you know, your heart and sense of the pastors and how you guys are working towards something.
Well, as a pastor of International Christian Center, you know, we have many pastors on staff, but like I said, it all affects us.
Yeah.
We all are touched by this, and to see the pain, you know, and to hear the prayer requests coming in of kids on addicted and this. So we all know it, and we all have came together, and we've decided, look, it's time for us to take care of our backyard. It's time for us to go forth and say, you know, we got to do something about this. So that's why we started this program.
Awesome stuff. I want to give you 60 seconds right now to look into the camera and share with the people your heart real quick. 60 seconds. And
Amen. Well, in Jeremiah 10:6, it says, Lord, there is no one like you, for you are great and your name is full of power. The drug epidemic is a powerful tool that the devil is using to grip this island. And I beg you and plead with you that if you know someone, or if you are someone watching, to go check out one of these programs. That there's many programs across this island, and let us prove to you that, man, we're going to walk through this with you. We're not going to judge you. We're not going to hold it over your head. Look, we're going to walk through this with you because we know the pain that it causes you. So I encourage you to look to the Lord, but also find one of these programs, get involved, and let God show off in your life, because that's truly what he's wanting to do.
stay right where you are. We have a second half to this interview. It's coming right now. Welcome back to the second half of our episode. We're so excited that you did not tune out. We just were talking with Pastor Eric Webb from ICC, and he was telling us about the 12-step group. And so we have now the facilitator of the 12-step group there at ICC, Norberto Cruz, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Norberto.
Pleasure to
Awesome
meet you,
to have you.
Pastor.
And I know that the people are probably going to want to know first, who is Norberto Cruz? So why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Well, of course, I'm Norberto Cruz, and I am, wow, it's a blessing to be here, I want to say. I am a chaplain at International Christian Center. And what's going on is that God put in my heart to seek out a program like this, all right? But first for me, all right? So what happens is that it just all fell into place speaking with our senior pastor. But right now also I'm a superintendent of a condominium in Staten Island.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
And where God took me from to make me a superintendent of a big building like that is awesome. It's an awesome thing. I'm married, happily married. I'm married 3 years and change. Before that, I was married 37 years. My wife passed on with cancer, and God placed another wonderful woman in my life. I have a son, I have a granddaughter, 2 granddaughters. And life is good, you know, life is good right now. Again, I'm a pastor, sort of a chaplain, and I am also involved with Visiting Nurse Services of New York. I do hospice
Awesome.
visits, hospital visits,
pretty
so many
interesting.
different things. It all comes together. It all comes together. People that are hurting.
That's
I
pretty
love
awesome.
to reach out to people that are hurting. And also I do the homeless ministry with Pastor Eric. So I do what I can.
Well, this
And
is
let the
you
Lord
now.
do. Yeah,
All right.
this is me now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, I do what I can, and God will do what I can't for me.
So this 12-step group that Pastor Eric was telling us about, that you're starting there at ICC, tell us more about the group itself. You know, and there's a lot of different types of groups.
Yes.
There's traditional groups, faith-based groups, you know, 8 principles, 12 steps, all kinds of different stuff going on right now. So tell us more about your group.
Yeah, this is not a traditional Overcomers outreach program. It's a Christ-centered program.
But it's called Overcomers?
Yes, it's Overcomers Outreach, 12-step Christ-centered program. And it's awesome because freedom really comes from Christ. You know, we have this program going on. It started the end of last year. The pastor, Ron, and I one time bumped into each other in church, and I spoke to him about that I was coming to the Thursday sessions, Overcomers, here at CPC. And I went for me. I felt there was something missing, but little did I know that God was going to use that to spur on this program to be done in ICC.
Awesome.
And I recall,
Churches working together.
that's right,
That's a good thing.
unity in the body of Christ. If there's no unity, there's no victory for the Lord. You know, we can't be separated. Just like the Father and the Son work together.
Yeah.
You know, so then the pastor mentioned to me that he was looking for someone to do that program. And lo and behold, I had it in my heart, and God brought it together, and right now we're doing it in ICC.
That's pretty awesome. You know, this Overcomers, I know that with Richard, that you know, from here from CPC, it's part of an organization, right? Overcomers is literally a nationwide
It's
organization.
all over the world, yeah.
And you guys went to a conference, right, about the Overcomers? How was that?
I didn't actually go, but Richard
Oh,
went.
okay. I
and
apologize.
Brother Fitz
Right.
went.
So was that
Edward,
something, what they shared with you, was that
yes,
something
what
that
they
inspired
shared
you
with me
to?
is what inspired me to keep on going forward, because the unity that I heard about was so awesome, and the pain that I feel for those that are addicted in habits, bad habits, and compulsive behaviors. That's where I came from. But down the road,
Well,
we'll
let me
touch
ask
that base.
you
Yes.
this question. You know, not everybody. Some people that go to school for social work and different things, and they have a desire to want to help people. And then you got people like myself and yourself that can honestly answer the question, where does your passion come from? and it's not connected to going to school for a
No, it's not,
degree and
no.
all these other things. It's more of the school of hard knocks.
Yes, most
So,
definitely.
so what passionately motivates you to want to facilitate an Overcomers 12-step group in ICC?
Well, the Lord set me free from addictions for 25, 30 years of using drugs and alcohol. I grew up in a heroin-infested neighborhood in Park Slope on 20th Street and 4th Avenue. And I never forget, there was a methadone clinic that always used to get burned out or blown up. I had no clue why that was happening. But little did I know that sooner or later, I would get caught up in the mix. People, places, and things. The environment I grew up in. I would go up to my roof, I remember, and I would see guys, I thought they were dead, with needles in their arms. I would call the police, and they would come and just pick them up, so on and so on. But I had no idea that I was going to get caught up in it. But see, I also grew up in a home that was kind of tough. My father was military 35 years. And he was a featherweight boxing champ in the Marines, and we wore his punching bags. You know, so what happens is it gets me a little emotional
So
when
he
I talk
had a lot
about
of
it.
anger in his heart.
He had a lot of anger in his heart, and that anger came from him going through the same thing with his stepfather. God revealed that to me down the road. So we're at peace now by the grace of God. I love the man now. I wasn't like that before. I didn't understand, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. So what happens? I got caught up in the mix of drugs and alcohol. I wind up getting married at 18 years old, and because you know what we do when we're young, we make bad choices. But that marriage lasted 37 years only by the grace of God, because I put that woman through hell because of my addiction, and she held on to me. She held on to me. She passed on, but she passed on. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. She was a believer, you know. So I'm at peace with that. But what happens that I was down a road of destruction, total destruction. Cocaine became my best friend. Marijuana, alcohol, everything that comes along, and a lot of bad choices that come with that. But one day, about 40 years old, I was reaching the end of my run by the grace of God. I caught a heart attack because I went on a mission one night. I spent like $500 hanging out and storing up cocaine nonstop. You know, I just couldn't stop. That's the addiction, right? So little by little, God started working in my life there and then, and it's been a long haul. So, but I never forget that I read this book called "Come as You Are, I Just Refuse to Leave You That Way." About Jesus telling me, "Come as you are." So I started going to church. And I was still running though. I was still going back to my own vomit like the dog does. But sooner or later, God did a wonderful thing. He completely took away that desire. The pain became greater than the desire at that moment in time. So then lo and behold, I moved to Staten Island. Things started to get even better. I went to ICC. I've been at ICC about 14 years. Now, by the grace of God, I could never figure it out, and I'm not trying to. I am a chaplain. So the Lord has brought me to the point of going into the federal prison on Sundays and bringing them strength and hope in Christ. And I'm doing this Overcomers Outreach in the prison. So it's really all God, because I'm not able to open up that door and walk back out in a federal prison or any prison for that matter. So it's really an awesome thing on how God took the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. But I lovingly bring the word of God to those that are lost. I don't hit them over the head. You know, that's not my job.
Yeah. So your passion comes from
Yes.
the testimony of what God brought you out of.
Yes.
And now you're able to embrace people with a compassion that you probably didn't have before that you have now. You know, it's exciting to see how God is raising up people in different churches to find their place to make a difference and be a part of the staff that's already there in the church, because the pastors, they can't do it all.
No.
And they need men that are gonna step up and women that are gonna step up and make a difference when it comes to touching the lives of people throughout Staten Island. You and I, we're unique, you know, we're unique and we're special. I wanna ask you to look into the camera, and 60 seconds, I want you to lay down all the information to the people in reference to your 12-step group. The location and where, what time, and you know, things like that, whatever's in your
All
heart.
right.
concerning.
Okay, so at International Christian Center, 1501 Richmond Avenue, on Tuesday, every Tuesday, from 7 to 9, we have the Overcomers Outreach. And it's going on, it's going well. You know, you can come there comfortable. We're not there to judge anybody. We're not there to hold anything over your head. Just come as you are, and Jesus refuses to leave you that way. Again, every Tuesday, 7 to 9. My name is Norberto Cruz, and God bless you.
You know, you were able to hear today Pastor Eric Webb share testimony. You were able to hear today Brother Norberto Cruz share testimony, and the reality is this: two individual men that never met, come from two totally different areas of the United States, and they meet here in Staten Island. And the exciting thing is that not only have their lives been transformed, but we all believe that God is still transforming lives today. That lives truly can be set free and delivered. So, as you look at your screen at the end of this episode, you'll be able to notice that there's a lot of information, a lot of websites that you can grab hold of. There's many organizations here in Staten Island that are doing a great work. Under the banner of Heroes of Hope, all it is for us to come together to tackle substance abuse. That's what Norberto's doing, that's what we're doing, and together we're able to make a difference. I want to be able to encourage you today in any way that is possible. There's two Overcomers outreaches here in Staten Island, and he just shared with you today the one that's taking place in ICC. There's many different organizations like Celebrate Recovery and Renewal, and different organizations that are going on that are Christ-centered. We are working together to make a difference. It's very, very important that you understand that. So God bless you. Get your pen, begin to write it down, all that information. Have a blessed night.